classic rock fans, to another episode of Classic Song Review. Today we're going to be looking at Angie by the Rolling Stones. Of course, famously it came off their Goat's Head Soup album. The single was actually released in August 1973, reached number 1 in the US charts and number 5 in the UK charts. It was knocked off the top of the US charts by Gladys Knight and the Pips' Midnight Train to Georgia. The Stones, actually, the live debut of this song was in Vienna. I don't know if I've got the actual date for you. Well, it's the first date of their 1973 European tour in Vienna when they actually debut playing this song live. Of course, after the barbaric yop that was the wonderful Exile on Main Street, Mick Jagger very much seizes the reins of the band. Many would argue perhaps he had to, as Keith Richards was somewhat indisposed. And the ensuing two albums, Goat's Head Soup and It's Only Rock and Roll, have a more mainstream feel to them, without a doubt. Of course, Goat's Head Soup was actually recorded in Jamaica, if I'm not mistaken. Exile on Main Street, of course, was a bit of a commercial flop. It's an album that's gathered in reputation, usually by other musicians and hardcore music fans who just absolutely laud it as probably one of the best Stones albums ever. Of course, after the Exile sessions, Keith Richards flies to Switzerland to detox. It's there that he writes Angie, or starts to put down the first notes for the song. I read, interestingly, actually, that Angie was a kind of a code name for heroin while they were recording the Exile on Main Street album. So whether that has any bearing on the title of the song, I don't know, because there are other sort of myths and ideas about where the actual title comes from and who the song is about. But there's certainly no doubt the song is kind of valedictory. It's a goodbye to somebody or something. Keith Richards says in his autobiography, and if I may quote, I wrote Angie in an afternoon sitting in bed because I could finally move my fingers and get them in the right place again. It was not about any particular person. There you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. Of course, Richards and Anita's daughter is born at this time. They were going to call her Dandelion, but due to it was a Catholic hospital, I think she was born in, so they wouldn't allow that. So they had to call her Angie. They gave her the name Angie Dandelion Richards. Interesting aside, of course, his daughter got married not so long ago, I think, and she actually had the song Angie played at her wedding. So Angie could in fact be about Keith Richards' daughter. There is another story, of course, that's put about by Angie Bowie, of course Bowie's then wife, who says that the song was written for her to appease her after she found Mick Jagger and David Bowie in bed together. Of course, Mick Jagger denies this. Whether there's any truth in it, I don't know. It's effectively a mournful sort of song that's sung achingly well by Jagger. It's a song written by Richards, tweaked, I suspect, by Jagger. The wonderful lines in that song, like, for example, with no loving in our souls and no money in our coats, for me, it's one of the most memorable lines from the song. I love the guitars on this track, from that opening harmonic note by Keith Richards. It has it's recorded in a minor key. It has an intimacy and delicacy about it. There are other people who make a wonderful contribution to this song. Of course, Nicky Hopkins on piano, and of course Nicky Harrison, who provides the string arrangements. The string arrangements are just perfect. They beautifully support the sort of aching longing of the track. If the string arrangements were too much, it would start to sound really syrupy. I refer you to the Phil Spector's mix of The Long and Winding Road by the Beatles. Recording of this song began in November 1972 at the Dynamic Sound Studio in Kingston, Jamaica, obviously produced by the wonderful Jimmy Miller. The engineer on this song was, if I may refer to my notes, Andy Johns. There's a wonderful version of this song that can be heard on the Stones Blu-ray Crossfire Hurricane. It's certainly worth checking out. This song for me marks the start of their kind of flabby, sort of directionless mid-70s period. Certainly in this time they've become quite adept at writing ballads. Let's not forget beautiful sort of ballads like Winter, Coming Down Again from Goat's Head Soup, Fool to Cry, Memory Motel from the Black and Blue album from 1976. As an interesting aside, of course, I loved Tori Amos's cover of this song. She has a way of imbuing songs with kind of an aching sense of angst and longing, which is specifically her. Absolutely beautiful version. It featured on her, I think it was the Crucify EP, which came out, if I'm not mistaken, a little box with some postcards in the 90s. Probably a collector's item now, worth a few quid. Anyway, you've been watching an episode of Classic Song Review. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please click like and share. Please check out the Facebook page, but more importantly, please do keep listening.